And welcome back to ABC-7 Extra Sunday. I'm Mark Ross. In light of the flooding disaster in Central Texas, both the Texas Senate and the Texas House have established a select committee on disaster preparedness and flooding. State Representative Joe Moody of El Paso is on the House Select Committee, and he joins me now. Representative Moody, thank you for coming on. What is the purpose of this Select Committee?
Well, I think the Select Committee is going to do a handful of things, but focusing on the immediate need, right? So there's a couple of different tasks we're looking at in relation specifically to flooding, right? And then there is a third task that sits over the top of this and looking at all natural disasters, right? If you've been paying attention to the last several years here in Texas, whether it be the wildfires or hurricanes or the winter storm, right now the floods that we've seen in Central Texas, these emergencies have shown us flaws in our system, places where we have failed. And I think our big task, at least in my opinion, is to look at the commonalities, look at the threads between those emergencies, and what can we do to get solutions out to the people we represent today, right? What can we do today? There's going to be a forward-looking part of this too. What kind of infrastructure that we can put in place so that we're building towards the future, so you can mitigate potential emergencies or for future emergencies, or maybe in some circumstances eliminate the tragedy around these natural disasters as a whole. So I think that's what we're going to be focused on.
Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of this segment, there is a separate Senate Select Committee, which will be basically doing the same thing, and your counterpart, State Senator Cesar Blanco, is a member of that committee. Will there be a time when the two committees meet, and what would the end result look like?
Right now, so the way it's set up is there's two committees, right? One in the House, one in the Senate, that are agreeing to meet jointly, and we're going to meet next Wednesday, as I've been told, in Austin to start to hear testimony from various people across, just across the spectrum about these issues. The following week, the plan is to go down to the affected area, specifically for this was flooding area, Kerrville, the Kerrville area, and hear from folks on the ground there about this specific emergency so that we can gather that information. At some point, we'll have bills that will come up during the special session. We can't take those up jointly. Those will go through the committees separately, and then we work together to get solutions to the governor's desk by the end of the 30-day special session.
Now, Representative Moody, since the flooding, Kerr County leaders have come under fire on social media for not doing enough to warn residents about the flooding risks. One of the stories was the county leaders had allegedly rejected $10 million in federal money from the Biden administration, which could have been used to update their flood warning system. That has since been proven to be false. We've learned that some of the money was actually used to improve the county's emergency radio system. Another one was that county leaders over the years have asked the state for money to improve flood warning systems, but were turned down. Can the select committees take steps to make sure that money is given to Kerr County or other counties that would be affected by flooding?
Yeah, we can absolutely do that, and we can take a look at those situations. I've heard those same stories that you have. Right. The point is, in times of emergency, the folks that I represent, the folks that are across this state, they want to know that in times of emergency and in times of planning for those emergencies, that the state is a partner, that we're helping, that we're not putting up bureaucratic barriers to getting that infrastructure to these communities. The state of Texas has the weight and the power and the heft and the finances to do this all over the state. There's no reason why we shouldn't be doing that. And emergency response looks different for different regions of the state. And we can be diverse in our approach. And I think that's what people expect. Now, I look forward to having that conversation with folks on the ground in the Kerrville area to learn about how that went wrong or right in certain circumstances, so that we can put policy in place that helps people. I mean, that's really our goal. And so I look forward to that conversation, because to your point, we need to dismiss the stories and get down to the facts.
State Representative Joe Moody of El Paso, thanks for joining us on ABC-7 Extra.
Thank you.
And I'm joined now by Greg Lundeen. He is the Science Operation Officer and Acting Meteorologist in charge with the National Weather Service Office in Santa Teresa. Thank you for coming on, Greg.
You're most welcome.
I know rain can certainly be welcome in Ruidoso, but the burn scars from all of the wildfires just make it more likely to flood. Why does that happen?
Well, the main reason is that where the burn scars have occurred, the soil's ability to absorb water, and it's a critical factor in forests to absorb water. It's called duff, and it's like a spongy mass of soil and leaves and stuff, and it absorbs a lot of water. The fires took all that away, so when the rain falls, it just goes straight into runoff. Compounding that is there's debris left from the fires, and that joins the water and starts racing through the streets. And Ruidoso sits kind of right in a conjunction or collection of drainage basins.
So almost like a canyon in ways, yeah. All right. Is it how long the rain is falling, or is it the amount of rain that causes localized flooding?
It's both to some degree. If the rain falls, a light amount or a moderate amount of rain in a very short period of time will create flooding conditions, or a lot of rain over a long period of time will. This area is very sensitive to rainfall right now, and thunderstorms tend to dump rain very quickly, and that creates issues because the soil just can't absorb it at this time.
The likelihood of flooding rains in our area seems to be more prevalent these days. Are storms getting stronger and with greater frequency?
Not really. I mean, what we've had the last several years is a very quiet monsoon season. Most of the moisture stayed west in Arizona, and we've had some very dry years. So this one is approaching a much more of a normal pattern that we've had in decades past. So it seems more active just because we've been really quiet weather-wise in the last few summers.
I know Ruidoso has gotten a lot of rain, especially during this particular monsoon season. It probably hasn't really reached the level of a 1,000-year flood like El Paso experienced back in 2006. Is the term 1,000-year flood outdated?
No, they're always reviewing, we call those average recurrence intervals. It's a nice fancy term, but just saying how often we expect floods of that nature to occur. Those rare floods obviously are much farther apart. It just means that they have a low percentage of occurring over a 1,000-year period. It does not mean you will not see another one for 1,000 years, for a 1,000-year return interval. And we're looking at mostly in 5, 10, 50, 100-year intervals, and technically you could have two of them back to back. But they're still rare overall. So it's an indication of rareness, not an indication of it won't happen for another 100 years or so.
And Ruidoso really has been, I guess, in the center, the bullseye when it comes to the severe weather that we've had recently.
It is because of the burn scars. Again, the ability for this forest that surrounds Ruidoso to hold whack water is pretty much gone right now. So anything that falls is going to run right into the Rio Ruidoso and its other drainages, and there's very little response time with that. I mean, the water falls and it immediately starts flowing. So it's a very sensitive area, hydrologically speaking, rain, and it's going to be for some time.
Craig Lundeen with the National Weather Service, thanks for coming in to offer your perspective tonight.
You're welcome.
And a clarification, New Mexico Representative Gabe Vasquez's district includes the Mescalero Apache tribal lands, but Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury's district includes Ruidoso. My thanks to all of my guests, and thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Ross. Stay safe, stay strong, and I'll see you next Sunday night.